When an avoidant is busy, working, focused, distracted, or just mentally occupied, and you text them, they don't experience that message the same way an anxious person does. There will be no urgency to always text you back. They don't feel an immediate internal alarm that says, I need to stop everything and respond right now. Their nervous system doesn't register text messages as urgency by default. That difference alone causes a huge amount of misunderstanding. For anxious attachers, texting often feels regulating. It feels like connection, reassurance, and emotional validating. When a text goes unanswered, the nervous system reacts. Thoughts start to spiral. Anxiety rises and negative meaning gets attached to the silence. Avoidants don't operate from that same place. For avoidants, texting is usually not emotional regulation. It's a task added onto other things that they have going on in their lives. And tasks get sorted by priority, capacity, and stress level, not emotional urgency. And if they deem the person on the receiving end as a part of their stress or pressure, they definitely won't text back quickly. So when they're focused or working, they don't naturally interrupt their flow to answer messages unless something feels critical to them. They're not ignoring you out of disrespect. Their brain is simply wired to stay in the lane it's already in. Now, here's where it gets uncomfortable, but honest. I have to say this because you must understand where you fit in the avoidance life. If you're in a situationship, that's not a clearly defined committed relationship, and the avoidant often doesn't register you as a priority in the same way you might register them. And that's not because you're unimportant as a person. It's because the relationship itself hasn't been defined as emotionally binding. Situationships give avoidants psychological permission to stay emotionally detached. If you see each other occasionally, have intimacy, but haven't had conversations about commitment, expectations, or exclusivity, many avoidants categorize that connection as optional. They may not see the situationship as serious. So no, they're not going to stop their day to respond quickly. No, they're not going to treat your text with emotional priority. And yes, that hurts if you're emotionally invested, but you must know where you fit in their life instead of assuming or forcing. It's important to be real about this. Avoidants take defined commitment seriously once it's mutually agreed upon. Without that clarity, they often assume low emotional obligation, even if you feel deeply connected. That's one layer. Another layer is how avoidants respond to emotional text. Avoidants do not text back on impulse. If a message is emotionally charged where there's heavy feelings, conflict, accusations, pressure, urgency, or drama, their system doesn't lean in that. It freezes, shuts down, or delays, and it's done automatically, not on purpose. It has nothing to do with them not caring about you. It's because emotional intensity under stress overwhelms their processing system, and it shuts the brain down. When avoidants are already stressed, they have work stress, life stress, internal pressure, and they receive an emotionally loaded message, their brain goes into protection mode. Here's what's happening neurologically. Under high stress, the brain shifts resources away from the prefrontal cortex of the brain. This part of the brain is responsible for language, reasoning, emotional nuance, and thoughtful communication. Instead, the nervous system prioritizes survival. Blood flow increases to areas responsible for threat detection and decreases in areas responsible for emotional articulation. That's why their mind can feel blank and words disappear. They want to respond, but can't organize what to say. So they're not ignoring you. They're overwhelmed. Avoidants are especially sensitive to the idea of making things worse. Many grew up in environments where emotional expression led to conflict, punishment, misunderstanding, or shame. So when they're stressed, they become hyper aware of the risk of saying the wrong thing. So they pause. They take time. They reread the message. They think through consequences. They wait until they feel calmer. And sometimes, especially if the message feels chaotic or emotionally demanding, they delay so long that it looks like avoidance, or it just looks like they're flat out ignoring you, and that's not always the case. No one wants to feel guilty, bad, or accused of being a bad person and personally ignore you. So they really try hard, so hard they can exhaust themselves and give up. From the outside, it feels dismissive. From the inside, it feels cautious. Another important piece people miss is capacity. Avoidants often only engage emotionally when they feel regulated. When they don't feel well, emotionally, mentally, or physically, they try to conserve energy. They reduce stimulation. They limit interaction. So you might notice they respond to coworkers, handle certain tasks, or stay productive, but go quiet with you. That's not because you matter less. It's because intimacy requires more emotional bandwidth than surface level interaction. And when they're dysregulated, they simply don't have it. This is also why avoidants may respond later with something short, logical, or minimal. They're not trying to be cold. They're trying to stay regulated. Now, this doesn't mean anxious pain isn't valid. Silence hurts. Delayed responses hurt. Feeling deprioritized hurts. And none of this means you should tolerate emotional neglect. But understanding the why helps you stop internalizing their behavior as rejection. Because I know how painful that feels. I'm a healed, fearful avoidant, so I understand both sides. Avoidants don't equate texting speed with emotional connection. They equate emotional safety with reduced pressure. So when will they text back? Usually when their stress level drops, their nervous system settles, they've had time to think, they feel less emotionally flooded, they feel confident they won't make things worse. That's when their mind is clearer and they can give you a more intentional response. This is why avoidants often communicate better after space, not during intensity. And this is also why texting is one of the worst communication tools for avoidant anxious dynamics. Text removes tone, safety cues, and regulation, and amplifies misinterpretation. If you're anxious, the silence feels loud. If they're avoidant, the pressure feels louder. Neither person is wrong, but the mismatch creates pain. The real takeaway here isn't to justify ignoring messages. It's to understand that urgency is perceived differently. And if you're in a situationship hoping someone will treat you like a priority, that's not how avoidance systems work. Priority comes with clarity, structure, and defined commitment. Without that, they stay emotionally reserved. So if texting anxiety is hurting you, the solution isn't chasing responses. It's either creating clear relational definitions, setting boundaries and sticking to it, or choosing a dynamic that meets your emotional needs. Because healing doesn't come from decoding response times. It comes from understanding nervous systems, including your own. And once you understand that, you stop taking silence personally and start making choices that protect your emotional health. If you're in a situationship with an avoidant, know that it comes with different expectations than a committed relationship.